Welcome to HIListically Speaking. I'm Hilary Russo, certified holistic health coach and health and wellness journalist. This is an empowering place to explore self-awareness, self-love, and transformation through health, healing, and humor. By sharing life-changing experiences, knowledge, and guests with varied expertise, we'll explore who we are, how we got that way, and what it takes to be a happy and healthy grown-up. Mind, body, and spirit. I'm glad you're here. The greatest gift we can truly give someone is our time. I love that quote. There are many variations out there, but the takeaway is clear. Kindness matters. Every person we connect with, be it for a moment or a lifetime, is part of a bigger lesson. And when we take time to listen, it's amazing what we hear, but also what we give in return. Time plus kindness equals connection. Now, I've never been a math whiz, but I imagine that's as proof positive as it gets when it comes to the formula for life. Leon Logothetis has been following that formula for more than a decade, but it wasn't always that way. His pain fueled his purpose, and what started out as a journey into self-reflection turned into a best-selling book and the hit Netflix series, The Kindness Diaries, where he travels the world relying on the kindness of strangers, the stories they share, and of course, a little Winnie Love. It's how I came to know Leon, and it's why I want you to as well. Get to know the kindness guy on this episode of HIListically Speaking. Leon, it is such a pleasure to have you on HIListically Speaking. Thank you so much for taking the time and holding space for me as well. I would love for you, for those who aren't familiar with the Kindness Diaries, to share more about how that came to be, who Leon is, and your story.
Sure. I used to be a broker in the city of London. And on the outside, I pretty much had everything you could ever want. But on the inside, I had pretty much nothing you would ever want. Yeah. And I ended up watching the movie The Motorcycle Diaries, which is a romanticized version of Che Guevara traveling around South America, relying on kindness. And there was something about that movie that really touched me in a profound way. And to cut a long story short, I quit my job and started to travel around the world relying on kindness. And after, quite a while, I ended up doing the Kindness Diaries. That's kind of the shortened version of the story.
But to leave something that is secure and comfortable, which a lot of people I think are doing now. We're seeing a lot of people walking away from the full-time corporate life, the benefits, everything that comes with being comfortable, to get outside your comfort zone, to be happy, Wouldn't you say that's kind of what happened here? Yeah.
It definitely did. And I think sometimes people say to me, so how did you manage to pull that off? And the truth is that it was pain that propelled me to take that decision. Not necessarily physical pain, emotional pain. I was very depressed and very kind of no real sense of purpose. And it pushed me to kind of find a new way of living.
And how's that been for you the last couple of years?
Well, look, it's not always great, right?
Yeah.
It's not like I quit my job and then, the heavens opened and everything worked itself out. That's not how it works. There were bad days, and there were good days. And it's just, you just got to keep on going.
Sure. You had this idea to buy this old, or, I don't even know if you did this. Did you actually buy the first motorcycle on the first season? You did. So that was the purchase. And from that, it went, and I love that because, I love yellow. So I get that. It's an empowering, sunshine, happy color. Was there a reason behind the color of choice that you chose as well?
Yeah. So did you ever watch the movie Chitty Chitty Bang Bang?
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
I grew up with that movie, as many of us did. And you'll remember that the car could fly. It was a character. So I wanted the bike and then subsequently the car to be characters for the viewer. And for me as well. I wanted, in some bizarre way, I recreated Chitty Chitty Bang Bang.
That is fabulous. I love
Yeah,
that. And I remember, I mean, I haven't seen that movie in years. Have you actually, did you rewatch it
I
before?
did.
I guess
Do
you
you
would
know
call that
what? No,
research.
yeah, do you know, actually, I didn't rewatch it, and I didn't consciously think to myself, "Oh, I'm recreating Chitty Chitty Bang Bang." But then afterwards, after I'd done it, I was like, "Oh, I think this just happened."
That's incredible. I love it. I love rewatching those movies. I think there's something we find in it when we get older that we don't see when we're kids,
Yeah, yeah,
right?
yeah, yeah.
So being able to relive that is really quite beautiful. So you created this amazing show, but you had been doing some work before the Kindness Diaries came to be.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. One of the first things I did after leaving my job was I walked across America from Times Square to the Hollywood sign with $5 in my pocket, relying on kindness. And then I did it again around England, and I did it from the Eiffel Tower to Red Square in Moscow, and we'd done quite a lot of things. But the Kindness Diaries was kind of like the culmination of all of that.
And when you're doing these journeys, when you're taking these walks, when you're taking the ride, I mean, it all comes back to the connections and the human connections. The one thing I love doing, living in New York as long as I have, is just sometimes sitting in a park, and when somebody sits down on a park bench, is giving that person time and space. And sometimes you hear the most incredible conversations. And I think that's what you've created, is the space to not judge based on appearance or what kind of house you have or where you live or what you do for a living, but right here, right? So
Yeah.
right in the heart.
One of the most profound lessons I learned on my journeys, all of them, not just the Kindness Diaries, is that ultimately we're all the same. It doesn't matter
Yeah.
what color you are. It doesn't matter what religion you are. It doesn't matter how much money you have, how little money you have. We just want to be seen. We want to be heard. We want to be loved. And that's just the way it is. And I often say in my speeches, I tell people, when you watch the news, whether it's on the left or the right, and they tell you we're different because we live on a, north of a line or south of a line, or because we're a different color, they're just lying. It's not true. That's just a fact. Once you go out and see the world, you will realize that you're being lied to.
Yeah. Well, it's being guided by fear, right?
Yes,
Instead of
yes,
love. We only have those two, is fear
yes,
and love. So
yeah.
I choose love. I know you choose love. And speaking of love, it's so many of us on this planet are animal lovers, thankfully. And I do love the devotion that you have put into this show, this homage to Winnie, to Winston, and creating that Winnie Love feel. And I have to say, whenever I'm having those moments, and I have my Lizzie Love, my little girl, there's something that truly comes over you when you think about the love that you have for a pet. Right. So that there is one episode where you actually touch on that pretty deeply with the woman that was taking in all the animals and, powerful stuff. But the idea of bringing Winnie Love into what you've created, this umbrella of kindness, what was the real purpose of that?
So, Winston was my dog, Boston
Yeah.
Terrier, and he really taught me how to love. I know it was like a pure love that I allowed myself to feel and to give. And I realized that, he wasn't perfect by any stretch of the imagination. I mean, he was a professional nut job. I mean, sorry, he just was, right? I mean, he mirrored me ultimately, yeah? And I mirrored him. I made him into a nut job. If you'd seen how I treated him, there's no way he could not be a nut job, not be a nut job. And he was sometimes very annoying, blah, blah, blah. But I realized that I was very patient with him, and I was very kind to him, and I was very loving to him, imperfectly, but most of the time. And I thought to myself, well, what would happen if I went out into the world and I treated you the same way I treated him? And it came to me that it's a choice. It's a choice how we show up. It is a choice how I show up with you. It is a choice how you show up with me. You don't have to do it perfectly by any stretch of the imagination. No one is perfect. No one. But you do have to make a commitment to how you show up. And that's what I've chosen to do. And again, I clearly don't do it perfectly, but I have made a commitment. And I think that's a little bit of a shift.
Yeah, there's that unconditional love of a pet, no matter how much we might scold them, and I don't really like to do that. But I mean, yeah, they could be nut jobs, right? But they still come back and they love you unconditionally. And I guess going out into the world and thinking that way can really bring more of that kind of love around us, right? I mean, isn't that what it's all about? I love that. I don't know if I've ever really heard that concept before, hearing you talk about Winnie Love, and I'm a huge animal lover, but it's a beautiful way to go be kind, right? You mentioned before about what we're going through right now, politics, pandemic, and in so many words. And I guess the big thing is like how, with someone who travels as much as you do, and look, we're all not traveling now, right? Traveling is that it fulfills us in a lot of ways to see what's out in the world, make us part of what's considered a global village rather than just living in our own little village. But how are you dealing with the non-traveling right now and taking care of yourself and your mind and kindness around you?
Well, I'm in a bit of a unique situation in the sense that all I did was travel. And now that I can't travel, I'm actually okay, because it means that my, let's say, addiction to traveling has been stopped. So I've had to stay in one place and just take things in and do nothing to a certain degree. And sometimes doing nothing is the most profound thing that we can do, because we live in a society where we're told you have to do something. It's so funny. It's like people are always sending me emails saying, I know you're really busy. And I'm thinking to myself, I'm not busy, but they think like I'm busy. And it's the same. We think everyone's busy. Oh, if you're successful, you're busy. You're busy. Fine. Sometimes it's good to be busy, but sometimes it's good to do nothing.
Yeah. Well, doing nothing is something.
Exactly. It is the most profound thing, ultimately.
Yeah. I have to say that in the last 7.5, 8 months, and, I keep busy with what I do, being in the similar line of work you're in as well, traveling a lot for my work as a host as well. This has been a really profound time for me to get clear and get in touch with self more. And I thought I was already doing that. But when you are kind of put into your space, and not to say that there's rules, but there's rules. You have time to kind of be like, what can I do for me? What does this time allow me to go inward and be better and become better? So I feel like I've done a lot of growth in the last 7.5, 8 months. Do you feel that way as well?
Yeah, definitely. And I don't think we're going to fully understand the level of growth until the madness has come to an end, hopefully, at some point.
I hear that. I definitely hear that. So I'm part of your Kindness Ambassador group, and being with it since the start and seeing it grow has been a really beautiful thing, because what you're doing is you're creating a space for sharing. So here's a big question that I've gotten from people who have asked me when I pose some questions out there. Do you actually participate on that site?
On the Kindness Ambassador site? Yes, I do.
I love to hear that. You are pretty good about getting back about things. Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look, it's getting to a point where I used to answer every single message on Instagram, on Facebook. I mean, if I did that, I'd be working 24 hours a day just answering messages.
You'd be busy.
I'd be busy. I'd be busy doing a lot. So it's a balance.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, you have to take care of your own mental health as well. I mean, that's important. You have to find time for you. I think that's one misconception that happens when we are out there in the world and we are very open to connecting and engaging with people, that when we don't, we feel like there's that sense of imposter syndrome, or not being as authentic because, well, you're supposed to be available. This is what you do. You're the kindest guy. You're whoever you are. We get that feeling like, well, we have this responsibility to fulfill this, but we also need to take care of self. And if anything, the listeners could learn from this is that we have to respect other people's space as well. And, then we all thrive, right?
Indeed.
Yeah, definitely. So tell me about the school program. I remember learning about that when it was first shared on the Kindness Ambassador site on the Facebook group. You're looking to really build on that. And I know you're a public speaker. You're out there in the world. You're sharing with folks all over. But now hitting the schools and hitting them at a much younger level, where did that manifestation come to mind?
Well, look, it came to mind when I was 15 years old. I was at school, clearly.
Hopefully. I mean, who knows? You were busy.
Yeah. And I went in, we had an assembly. And normally you go to an assembly and you're like, yeah, whatever. Right?
Yes.
And And the only good thing about an assembly is you're not in class.
Mm-hmm.
But there was something about this speaker that was really beautiful. She was talking about the story of her son, and he had been unfortunately killed in the Black Hawk Down incident in Somalia. But it wasn't about his death. The speech was about his life and how he'd gone out and changed the world and inspired people through his art, through his vocation. And I never forgot that speech. And I realized that you can touch a kid's life. And another thing was that I was bullied mercilessly. And I know what it feels like to be very, very alone.
Yeah.
And I also know what it feels like not to be alone, because kids or teachers showed me some love and appreciation. So I know both sides. And I want to be able to make sure that there are kids, specifically the alone kids, who feel that there's someone that sees them.
I really felt that because I was bullied too as a kid, and it's pretty heavy. And, being able to be also a college professor, and I see a lot of the anxiety and the stress that these kids go through from, 5 years old up to, adulthood, really. There's no stop on this bullying now with the digital age, right? But I feel that because, when you feel that alone, and that is such an important time in our lives where we're growing and we're building relationships, and to feel from the get-go that you don't have the relationships and support, it can be really difficult. What is the reception you get from the kids?
Well, what I found with kids is if you get onto their level or climb up to their level, let's say, let's do it that way.
Love that.
That there's magic can happen. And they see and feel your presence. And it's not just a speech where I am like speaking at them, right? Kids come up on stage, I go into the audience, there are videos. It's very interactive. The teachers get involved. It's funny, it's serious. It's kind of all over the place in a good way.
Yeah, because serious topics don't have to always be serious. We need to be able to see the humor on the side of our healing and our growth. And even when topics are really serious, let's do our best to kind of see the humor behind what we've been through, the trauma to triumph, but also there is true power from the pain, right? My pain is the basis of my true power. So giving them that at a young level, hopefully it'll stick with them and they'll become these amazing, kind ambassadors in the world. Right.
Sure. And what I found also with kids is they don't listen to what you say. They listen to how you make them feel. And if you can make them feel something, they will never forget it. And it's the same thing with adults, really. I mean, I can sit here and talk to you and say many wise things, but if it doesn't touch a chord in your heart, it's irrelevant. You're going to forget it.
Never truer words. That's so true. Your goal is to make a positive impact on this world. What do you mean when you say that? What do you mean by the positive impact?
To inspire people to be their best selves. And when you do inspire someone to be their best selves, they go out and do good things.
Do you feel that everything you've done in this world, all this traveling, the meeting that you've done, it's made you a better person?
Oh, of course. 100%. I mean, I wouldn't be the person I am today if I hadn't traveled, if I hadn't read books, if I hadn't watched documentaries, if I hadn't had good times and bad times, and hadn't been humbled, hadn't had all these experiences. I wouldn't be the man I am today.
So with that being said, I'm curious how Leon will go forward. We're not going to be in this pandemic forever. We have the ability to get out and do still once we start doing more outside. I mean, obviously we're doing a lot inward as well, but what's next for Leon?
Look, just a continuation of what we've done, right?
Yeah.
To be able to continue to travel, to be able to continue to write books, to be able to continue to speak, to be able to continue to influence people in positive ways, and also to become better as a human.
Is there something you want to do that you've kind of had on your list of the to-do list, or just it's a goal for you that you want to do specifically?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I want to cross the outback in Australia.
Have you ever been to Australia?
I have. If anyone is listening from the Australian Tourism Board, please get in touch with me.
Nice pitch right there. I love it. Hey, use your space, man. It's your space to share. You do whatever you want. I appreciate that. I'd love to see that happen. That's actually on my bucket list of places to go as well.
Pretty epic.
Yeah, and it seems that they're doing a lot better with things than things are over here. So, we could learn a little bit from the folks in Australia and New Zealand as well. Humans are wired to connect with others, and we're wired for belonging and resonance in our lives. That's the whole purpose of humankind. And if I know that you're in a position where, being such a public figure, you have the ability to reach people. So I would ask, is there something that you would want to share with folks specifically as we start to wrap things up?
Look, I would. Winston Churchill, the British Prime Minister in the Second World War. And I always go back to Winston Churchill, right? I mean, again, not a perfect man by any stretch, but no one is. But he did have a period of time where he basically saved Europe, certainly saved the British Isles. He has a quote that says, "When you find yourself walking through hell, keep walking." And what he meant by that was, sometimes bad things happen. Don't shirk from bad things. Keep on going, because when you find yourself at the end, you'll become so much wiser, so much better, so much kinder, so much more empowered. Then you can use all those things to empower and inspire others.
Love that. Do you have quotes on your wall or anything like that? Do you have anything like that?
All the quotes are in my head.
All in your head? That's quite a library.
Not all of them.
That's quite a library.
The Winston Churchill ones are in my head.
Yeah. Wow. Is there anyone that really inspires you specifically? Do you have someone? I mean, obviously you mentioned Winston Churchill and his quote, but do you have someone that's on this earth now that inspires you in a specific way that you look to? You're like, I have an ultimate amount of gratitude for this person. If you want to hold witness, hold space for them.
I mean, look, I had a teacher who was very inspiring to me, and she made me feel like I had value, and she was my witness. And she's someone that I definitely look up to, and that she enabled me to be the person I am today. Because sometimes all you need is one witness, and many of us don't have that one witness.
Yeah. Would that happen to be the teacher that was in one of your episodes where you were doing?
No, that wasn't.
So that's
her.
awesome. You have more than one.
Yeah. I mean, she helped a lot as well.
Yeah.
But it was another teacher.
Okay. I don't want to give it away because there might be some folks that have never seen your show. And I highly recommend watching the Kindness Diaries, season 1 and 2. Really beautiful show. In fact, I first saw it, I don't know, it might have been last year. And I actually caught season 2 first. And then I watched season 1, which honestly, you can do that. And I remember, and I shared this with you in our last chat, that I was in the car with my mom last summer. It was a beautiful day. The top was down in her little VW Bug. And I said, Mom, when I launched this podcast, and I've been in media for 25 years, but this was an area I hadn't touched on yet. And I'm like, I'm going to do this podcast. I'm going to spread goodness and happiness and positive. And I'm going to get Leon on this show because she fell in love with you. She fell in love with you right away. I mean, this is an 80-year-old woman that I think I'd be careful and get a restraining order, actually. But she said, of course you will, which is a beautiful way of stating it, saying, of course. It provides empathy and resonance. It's a beautiful way of responding to someone. But here you are. Thank you. I appreciate you being here. And to all of you out there, definitely check out the Kindness Diaries, and then we'll see what Leon's up to going forward. But before you go, my friend, this is something I do with all of my guests.
Okay.
I do a rapid fire, which means I'm going to throw out a word to you, and you're going to come back with the first word that comes to mind. Don't delay on me. Keep it tight, dude. Okay. And by the way, these words I think of while we're talking. Some of them I have in my head, but some of them are just from our conversation. Okay. Sure. All right, here we go. Hold on. I'm adding one because I like that one. It might not be one word. Travel.
Happiness.
Inspire.
Magic.
Children.
The future.
Awesome. Winnie.
Love.
Love.
Winnie.
Cheater. Kindness.
A choice.
I'm throwing this one in as a bonus. Chitty chitty bang bang.
Kindness one.
Okay, I like that.
There you go.
Yeah, super. So I just want to say thank you so much for
No
taking
worries.
the time.
Thank you for having me.
I truly love this, and it is a pleasure to have you and share space with you and just hold space for you, really, to share kindness with the world. And I look forward to seeing what Leon's got going on in the future, as I'm sure the rest of the folks do as well.
Thank you so much for having me.
You can learn more about Leon, the Kindness Diaries, and his ongoing quest to inspire human connection and kindness by visiting his website. The link is on my podcast page. Got an incredible story to share? Connect with me on my website or social media at Hilary Russo. And if you're ready to turn your traumas into triumphs, let's set up a free discovery call. I'd love to support you on your healing journey and help you put the power of emotional well-being in your own hands. HIListically Speaking is produced by Alan Seals with music by Litbone Redding. Connection is everything, my friend, and it's why I'm here. Because of you. Until next time, thanks for listening. Be kind to your mind, and don't forget to laugh.